Okay, hi there. This is Stephanie, and welcome to my episode on thriving, which is probably, I would kind of consider the third in a series where I did an episode on resilience and talked about the difference between resilience and adaptability. Resilience is kind of surviving something and recovering from it. Adaptability is learning how to grow during change being inevitable, and then thriving is what I feel is the bonus episode. If you learn how to be adaptable, you're not just surviving. And if you learn how to be happy and joyful and moving towards purpose, I feel like that is thriving. And so many people, so many generations, my generation, all the way down to people in their 20s, have had so much coming at them. And I read this amazing article and listened to a podcast about how, especially people in my generation, we didn't grow up with this much digital information. Heck, we had encyclopedias we had to look stuff up in order to write reports when we were in our teens. So it's really interesting that we have the entire world's knowledge at our fingertips, and our brains were not built to handle it. And the human brain is adapting, but the people in their 20s, having gone through the COVID epidemic and everything, learning to adapt is definitely a skill set that you have to put yourself into uncomfortable situations to learn how to do. You can read about it, but you have to apply it. Often it's very physically uncomfortable and emotionally. And anxiety and stress, I have a whole episode on that I recommend that people look at to start thinking about why they feel like they are anxious and emotional. Go listen to that podcast. And I've got a great episode coming up with Dr. Lisa Smith, my dear friend, who is going to talk about some more ways to adapt and change and grow. But I wanted to talk about thriving because I do feel like for most of my life, I was resilient, 100% resilient. I survived and recovered from some extreme situations, not the worst things that have happened to people. I'm never going to say that I had it so bad. I mean, I had it bad. It was the only life I know. So the things that I went through were mine, just like the things other people go through are theirs. And I know way more amazing stories. Every day I see survival stories. But this is about the fact that I have been working on adaptability since I became an executive coach. I became a coach in 2006, and I've had my own coaching company since 2008. But I've also known about things in my life that I needed to adapt and learn and change and grow. And I couldn't ignore them. Once I knew I needed to do those changes, I knew that I needed to learn how to adapt and not just survive. Because survival mode for me was being in fight or flight all the time, and I had adrenal fatigue, and I wasn't well, and there were some episodes in my life where I physically was very, very ill, and I had to crawl out of that hole. So that's not thriving. And now adapting, if you want to go listen to the podcast I just posted about adapting, it talks about, self-care and mindfulness. And a lot of these themes that I talk about in different episodes, they do cross through each other. And I don't want to just use buzzwords that people are using, gratitude, mindfulness, things like that. But I do want to talk about, hey, I was resilient and I overcame and recovered. Then I became adaptable, and I'm constantly adapting to new things. Hey, I need to know how to communicate better, or I could really be a better listener, and I can go out and I can figure that out. But if I wasn't open-minded in adaptability, I would really be struggling to do that. So now that I am adapting, how am I thriving, and how can you thrive? You get out, you learn to adapt. The act of adapting happens, and in that you find the joy of new friendships, new life, new purpose. And purpose, I find, is the driving force in my life. If I didn't have a purpose, I would be crushed internally. So anyways, I have my first podcast of purpose is already posted, and I'm going to go on to a second one where I kind of close that topic out. But surviving means to continue to live or exist, right? And thriving means to grow, develop, and prosper. So the difference between the two is that surviving is necessary to live, and thriving is making continual progress. So a lot of my coaching clients, when I first get them, I'll just go back to this one guy I met in March this year. And when I met him, he pulled me aside and said, I have to hire you. I'm really stuck. And he just kind of looked gray, just overwhelmed, probably shallow breathing. And he was drinking 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day to keep his energy up really high. Can't imagine what that did to his adrenal system. All your hormones are off when you're running at that level. And his business was scattered. He had 15 different checklists, and he was working 12, 14, 15-hour days and trying to do his best and just barely surviving, honestly. If the wheels came off, his whole business would crash. So, when we looked at him surviving, that is no way to live your life. And I know a lot of people, do not get me wrong. If you have 4 kids and you're going to work and you're getting them into school and you're getting dinner done and you're coming home, I mean, that is surviving as well. So there can be peace and contentment in surviving. And I talk about that in Adaptability and in the Resilience podcast as well. But we want to talk about ways to differentiate between just surviving. If you want more for yourself and you're looking around and you see your kids are doing okay, you're making it through every day, we're going to talk a little bit about how to thrive a little bit more, even when you make small choices. So part of that is going to be, setting up goals for yourself. So surviving is about meeting basic needs, while thriving is about actively pursuing goals. So surviving, sure, you're going to say, hey, I have a goal every day to get dinner on the table, get the kids out the door, make sure they got their homework done. And these are all goals, and they're survival goals, which this is the stuff I have to do. But if you're actively pursuing goals, I could give an example. You've got the 4 kids. I have a niece who has 4 kids. She's amazing. She wanted to go after her master's. It was too much for her. And she wants her kids to have fun, and she's working so hard. Her husband's working really hard. And we talked about, you need to plan a vacation. And she said, I couldn't even imagine time off. And I said, well, let's look down the road. And when do you have time this summer that you're not working? And that your kids aren't going to be in school, so you have them anyways. And, can we carve out 5 days that you go somewhere? And then where do we want to go? And what is it that you want to do? And she wants to go to the beach, and she wants to get a hotel right on the beach that has a pool, but there's a beach too. And so I said, let's pick a place. Let's figure it out. How much is it going to cost? Because now we've got until July next year for you to do this. And when you pick it apart, and you got that goal, and your kids are going to have a great time, and you're going to have a great time, and you just push to save, okay, $50 a month towards that is going to get us there. And that's your goal. So then now you're thriving a little bit more. You have a hope for this for your family. And maybe, for some other people, I always have all of my clients start out with a budget. Within the first couple of months, we get a budget. We look at all of their debt. We look at all the things that they're paying on, all of their subscriptions. We cut those all down, and we start focusing on high interest debt. And while I'm coaching them on their business and their balance and their life and, gratitude, whatever it is, we look at their budget and we say, okay, if we pay this down, then we can start this savings. If we do this, and then we look at what's coming in, what's going out, what can we change? Can we get rid of that car that's costing us $1,700 a month and maybe go buy a used car, which we own, and now we have no more payment, and we may have an outlay of a certain amount of money, but then we're able to pay down this debt and that, so we have goals, and then you feel like you're thriving. So keep that in mind. Thriving is having goals that you can actively pursue, that is above and beyond just survival. And I'm happy if you want to send me a message, go to send an email to info@throwoffthelines.com, or go to my website and just send me a message. If you have a situation you want me to help you create a goal or something that you could actively pursue, it's not hard to do. But sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees or the trees for the forest, whichever one you're in. It can be hard. And we just need to work towards what is something that I can look forward to that can be fulfilling for me. So fulfillment is surviving is getting by, and thriving is feeling content and satisfied. So do you feel content and happy in your life? I am not here to tell you that you need to do more. Ever, ever, ever. I have a whole podcast on being still. And I had to learn, because I'm so goal oriented, that I could be very happy and thrive in stillness. And you know what? If you're fulfilled and content and satisfied, then you are thriving. If you are surviving and just getting by, and what I talk to a lot of clients about is, do you have balance in your life, or do you feel like you have to work 10 hours a day? Do you have balance in your life? Are you in a place where you could sit quietly and read a book? Are you in a place where you made dinner for your kids and you're able to sit down with them and ask them how their day went? Are you always rushing off to do one more thing because you feel like you've got to put in more work? Fulfillment is being present and enjoying what you have. And if you're still surviving and you have habits that are constantly causing you stress and things like that, you need to listen to some more of my podcasts and reassess what you're able to do to get rid of some of this pressure and habits that you need to change. So I'm going to have a whole habits podcast as well. Now, responses to your life events also. A survivor is someone who has lived through hardship, while a thriver is someone who has grown from a positive, normal, difficult, or threatening life event. So pretty much any event or circumstance, you can either survive or you can thrive from. And this is going to go back to my resilience and my adaptability podcasts. Resilience is recovering from a difficult time or an event or something that's happened to you. Adaptability is learning from change and growing from change. And thriving, I believe, is a mindset of looking at everything that happens to you and saying, well, this is going to be a learning episode, and you can get angry, you can get mad, but then when you come out of it, are you able to say, well, I won't do that again, or I would do that differently, and I'm feeling better for having gone through it. It takes a long time to get to that mental exercise, but it's possible. A thriving mindset is about continuing challenging yourself to be better, more fulfilled, and happier. So thriving is, in my life, thriving is my goal. I was not thriving where I was at 2 years ago. In fact, I was the opposite of thriving. I was losing momentum, losing motivation, and I was just generally in a bad place mentally. And now I'm pushing myself. I'm going out. I'm meeting new people. I'm putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I'm learning about myself. I'm adapting, and I'm loving it. And I don't have to go out all the time. I can sit at home and read a book and be just as happy. But I'm thriving in my life, and I wasn't 2 years ago. And it's because I've decided to make changes and I've decided to work on my mindset. So some ways to get from a survival mindset to a thriving mindset is learning how to regulate your emotions. Identify triggers for emotional situations and work on them. I am going to put together an emotional regulation worksheet. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I'll probably make an announcement in another podcast about a resources page on throwoffthelines.com for people to go to that have listened to the podcast and want some of the resources that are attached to the podcasts. It's not up and running yet, but it will be. And when you can learn how to regulate emotions around an event, that's when you can start to change from just surviving or old habits into a thriving mindset. And that means, okay, I'm going to go to this dinner and it's my family and we always fight. I just got to get through it. Thanksgiving's coming up, so we've definitely got some situations like that. And instead, you go and say, you know what? I'm going to identify that my family or going to this event triggers me to automatically feel bad and give up on any hope that it's going to be okay. Instead, I'm going to go, and for me personally, when I go to an event that I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, I just say, well, let me see what drama comes up. What's going to be tonight's little, play in motion? Who's going to be coming in with their own feelings? How can I diffuse a situation? I kind of go into it as a little bit of an escape room, a little bit of a game. And I just want to see who's going to be the main characters, who's going to be the side characters, what's going to be the main theme of tonight's play, and what do I do about my relationship with it? I'm just going to sit back and try not to add to it and try to just be me as I get to know me more and more. As I'm more thriving, I'm knowing more and more about myself. So another way to get more thriving is, this is such a phrase I'm hearing everywhere, is to practice mindfulness. And I saw this great meme on TikTok, and somebody was saying, us in the 80s, not having TV, not having radio, just some music. We practice mindfulness every day because we didn't have distractions. And it's true. There's way too much distraction right now. And our habits are causing us to kind of go through life just on autopilot. So the fact that we are all saying mindfulness, it's coming from every direction at us. What does practicing mindfulness mean? So let's use that dinner I said I'm going to go to, and I'm just going to see who the main characters are. That is practicing mindfulness. I'm going to go being aware of myself and not react and say something hurtful or say something reactionary or say something triggering for somebody else. Instead, I'm going to sit back and kind of enjoy interacting with people. I'm going to listen to what they have to say. I'm going to be mindful of my interactions. And by being more present, I hear more, I see more, I enjoy it more. I'm there at the moment. I'm going to remember Thanksgiving dinner really, really well, and all the fun stuff that happens around it. And mindfulness. This morning, I took the dogs for a walk, and I was present, and I got to say hi to 2 people as they walked past me. I saw a bunch of people waiting for an expensive coffee place, and I saw a construction guy who was working on a floor, and he had his music pumping, and I heard some kids playing on the playground. Even though it's Saturday, they were having a great time playing basketball. And if I had my headphones in, or if I was worried about something, I would have stomped along and hurried back and have been grumpy. But instead, I got to see the flowers and I got to feel the breeze, and I was mindful, I was present. And that's another way to learn to thrive. I mean, how much thriving is there when you go to an event and it has nothing to do with you and you just enjoy what everybody else is going through? Because they are the stage play that you get to witness. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. So another way to thrive is separate yourself from situations and events. I think about when I was in work. I would go into work meetings and there would be blame being passed around. And back then I had lower self-esteem. I didn't handle myself very well in business meetings. We're probably talking 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And at the time I would feel like, oh, my boss is saying this thing about you guys. Somebody didn't do this, and I'm worried the team isn't meeting this. And I took it so personally. And now I'm able to hear somebody. I love feedback, which is part of being adaptable. Again, if you work on your adaptability and go listen to that podcast, you can separate yourself from situations and events. They're saying this thing and I might have something to learn from it, but unless it's something I did directly, it's not my fault. I don't have to carry it with me. I will learn from it, adapt, and then move on. If something happened over here and somebody's mad, but I didn't have anything to do with that event, I'm not going to take on their anger, and I'm not going to take on any responsibility for that event. I'm going to just be me. And again, the more I work on adaptability and the more I feel happy and purposeful in my life, the more solid I am in my character, and I don't absorb things from other events and people. I'm present, and I become a part of the solution. So picking and choosing what you want to spend time doing is a really big deal. I again had some low self-esteem and I was such a people pleaser. It was annoying to some people how much I just wanted to give and be useful and so picking and choosing what I want to do and what I want to spend my time on is probably one of my number one self-care techniques. And when I say, I want to go to this museum, I'll go by myself. I don't need somebody to go with me because at that museum, I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow and I'm going to enjoy. And I might even meet somebody who really loves this museum at the same time. I love the Getty. I try to go a couple times a year. And or I might pick that I want to go help people clean up the beach. And that is something I'm going to choose to do because I feel like cleaning up garbage that could go into the water is one small thing I can do to give back to the environment. And I'm going to meet more people that want to do that. But if somebody invites me to go to a play and I know I don't want to go see that play, I no longer feel guilty about saying no to that. Nor do I judge people when they tell me no, they don't want to do something I want to do. I just figure it's the way it's supposed to be. I can go by myself, or the people who come along, we make the most of it. And when you pick and choose what you want to spend time doing and you say no to more things, I'm telling you, you start to thrive. When you don't do things just because you feel you have to or should, you start saying yes to things that you want to do and could. And it's so important that you get in tune with those things that feed your purpose and that you get to pick and choose that. You are worthy of saying no to things. While it's normal to be in survival mode occasionally, I'm not saying we're all going to be, sunshine and rainbows. Trust me. Staying there for too long and just being in survival mode is downright harmful to you. So learning to be resilient and then adaptable and then thrive. I would kind of call it the joy version of survival. You're getting past all that stuff. And even when tomorrow I get a flat tire on the side of the road, I am possibly in survival. Yeah, I got to get this fixed and I got to get to the side of the road and I don't want anybody to come and mess with me or bother me. But I'm going to do everything I have to do to adapt and get this fixed. And then I'm going to say, well, that happened. That only took 35 minutes or whatever. And I'm going to move on. And by the way, I'm going to check my tires. I need to go to the tire shop. And I still have good music on. And I'm still on the way to wherever I need to go. And I'm finding that if I'm going to miss an appointment, I just call ahead and say I'm going to miss the appointment. I don't beat myself up and then get there late and then apologize 100 times. I do my best. And, here's some other ways for you to learn to thrive in possibly uncertain times. A lot of my people who stress so much over change and over their job is really going hard. They don't know what's going to happen next month. I coach a lot of people that are in sales and business ownership roles. And boy, the uncertainty's been pretty thick for about 5 years now, if not even longer. And I don't know that it's clearing up anytime soon. So we try to view uncertainty as an opportunity for growth and innovation. Resisting having uncertainty lead us to fear and misery and struggle. So if you're thinking, I don't know what's going to happen next month and I know I'm going to struggle, then the odds that you're going to struggle are pretty good. So if you are fearful and miserable and struggling all the time, that is a really difficult place to be in, and it's going to harm your health, mental and physical. It's going to harm your ability to be successful, and you definitely can't thrive in that environment. So if you're so far down you cannot get out on your own, please talk to a professional. Find somebody to help you. I strongly encourage that. That is not someplace you need to be. I'm so proud of some of the pop stars now that are singing about it's okay not to be okay. And I'm seeing people posting all over the place, hey, if you need somebody to talk to them. Do not stay stuck in fear and misery and struggle because you don't have to. I deal a lot with people with an emotional ladder exercise where at the very bottom is fear and powerlessness. And what we need to do is really start to work on our ability to get above that. If you can get to angry and get out of fear and misery and struggle and just be angry about the struggle, you're healthier than you were in powerlessness. I know whenever I get to angry, I'm really able to get to look at all the things that are making me angry and then break them down into the components. And then I feel overwhelmed. Oh, I'm angry because I've got 10 things I'm trying to do at the same time, and I'm not doing any of them, so I'm angry because I'm not doing them. But that is healthier than feeling powerless or lost or miserable. And now when I'm overwhelmed and I can break them down into 10 parts, I'm able to look at each part and say, I'm going to make a plan to get that fixed. And I'm going to do something about that today. And I'm going to do something about that today. And sometimes when I'm kind of depressed and not doing well, I can do 5 minutes of one thing today, but I will have done 5 minutes of one thing today. And all of this is getting you to a place where you can accept the fact that uncertainty is probably a given in this life, but uncertainty does not need to drop you immediately into fear and misery. We have to accept the change happens, and we have to become adaptable to it. So focus on solutions to the things you know are going to change. And then focus on the present. Again, back to mindfulness. We only have today. And if we really want to get Buddhist about it and spiritual, we only have this moment. We are not promised the next minute or hour. And we have nothing to do with what happened in the past. We have this moment. And by being aware of your thoughts and feelings now, and knowing that you are what you think. So if you're always thinking you're miserable and scared and you're struggling and you're never going to get ahead, it is almost impossible to be happy. You cannot flip a switch and do that. But if you, for a minute, and this is my favorite thing to do, put on a happy song, one that you know just inspires you. I have a Spotify playlist, and I really like upbeat, happy music. I'll put on a happy song, and for that time, I can get up and move around the room. I can walk across the apartment. I can go outside and walk listening to music, and I can change my frame of focus. So focus on being in the present, and then go back and listen to my Effort podcast, because that Effort podcast is really other people inspiring me to be able to move and get out and put in effort, and effort will change your life. And then take care of yourself. I know that if I'm not eating well, and I'll go off on tangents where I'm eating baked goods and sugar, and I know we all do that, I start to feel really bad, and then my mood follows, and then I feel sick and tired and unhappy. And I know that if I'm eating well and I'm trying really hard to get good vitamins and vegetables and proteins into my body, I feel better. And when I feel better, I'm thriving. When I'm physically thriving, there's another great podcast with Andrew Huberman that is all about this woman. She's amazing. I can't remember the name. I'm going to put it in the podcast show notes if you want it. She talks about 3D printing your body. And I just thought that was such a good example of every time you're eating something, you're feeding code into the machine that is printing your body. And if you're eating good, healthy stuff, your body's going to 3D print better organs. It's going to 3D print better skin. It's going to 3D print better brain cells. If you're putting in junk and sugar and toxins and processed foods, your body can't help but throw most of it away, and then you're building your brain off of all this stuff that has nothing to do with healthy brain cells, well, cellular level stuff. So take care of yourself, and then maintain a routine. A lot of people on the weekends, they'll start drinking Friday night, and they'll drink Saturday, and then Sunday's here. Might as well have Sunday afternoon, drinking session or a brunch and then by Monday, they have used up all their energy and they have to get back to work. They've been staying up really late, sleeping in, lethargic, and then boom, they got right back to their schedule and they're unhappy and miserable, and they're back to bad habits and and they're surviving, right? That's not fun. So if you can stick to a regular routine as much as possible, that's good. I'm not saying don't go out. I'm saying go out, but be mindful of how you're taking care of yourself. Be careful with what you're doing with your body. This is the only one you get. So try to wake up at a regular time. Try to get enough sleep. Try to stay connected with nature. Go out for a walk. Even if you stayed up late Friday night and you sleep in an extra 2 hours Saturday morning, get up and go for a walk. Get your body moving. Go have a good lunch. Make yourself a really good dinner. Sunday night, make the meals for the rest of the week. But try to stick to some kind of routine that is self-care, self-aware, and mindful. And then be flexible, be adaptable, and embrace learning and growth. Whatever you're doing, I tell all of my people, whatever your job is, you should have a resume. It should be up to date, and you should be out interviewing at other companies if you can get an interview and learn about what the newest trends in the business are. That is thriving. If you have a job, say you're in HR and you know that you got winter coming up. Come January, everybody's post-holiday, people kind of slack off. We've got all this, everybody has their resolutions in place, and we do business planning. But what can you do in HR to keep people motivated from January to February to March? What's some new things that are coming out? Is there an app you can get everybody? Is there a wellness program you could start at the company that you could put in place for January and February? If that's your job, how do you stay on current trends? Are you reading the books and the blogs and the conference materials that you're getting? Are you staying up to date? That's you growing in your position and you getting better at your position. And that is thriving. That is pure thriving. So be flexible and adaptable, and learning and growing is huge. Next is embracing new experiences. And this is one of my favorites. I'm uniquely built to love to go out and create change and be a part of change and go to new experiences and meet new people. But it's not always easy for everybody. So seek support in your life. Make sure you have human connections and community connections. They're incredibly important to thriving. Every time you hear I hear another article or a newscast or something about people with longevity, it's always about the community they created. And did they have friends? Did they have family? Did they have connections? And it's so important. So make a list of your friends, make a list of family members you haven't spoken to in a while maybe, and then try and call one a week or several a week. On the weekends, get a hold of people, reach out and keep them close. Friends are so important to our mental health and then to our physical health as well. And you will thrive when you have community. Another one that's huge is celebrate your achievements. If you accomplish something, recognize it. Don't put off those things that you've worked for. Take a moment to stop and feel the accomplishment. Say goodbye, good job to yourself, mark the occasion for yourself, or invite a group of friends or go out with one to feel the sense of accomplishment. Just make it important. I remember I got my master's and it wasn't a big deal. I got a couple of congratulations. It was a really big deal to me, and nobody in my life was really celebrating it with me. Nobody was really making it a big deal, and it just kind of went away. And I was really upset about it for a while, but I realized that I could have made that celebration. I think that too often we feel we wait for somebody else to celebrate us. Why don't we celebrate ourselves? We have to do that. And when my clients meet a new goal or they accomplish something, we celebrate it. That's thriving, acknowledging that you did something. It could be that, hey, I cleaned out my closet for the first time in 5 years and gave away 2 bags of clothes. You know what? Woohoo! I'm going to go have a bag of potato chips. I don't care. Feel that sense of accomplishment, because if you're not acknowledging the things that happen good because of your efforts, it's really hard to acknowledge that you're thriving. And then focus only on what you can control. Go back to what are the problems that you can solve? And go back to the episode on change that I did, which is really important about when change happens, how to handle it. You can't control everything. Let go of the things you can't control. And that's really hard for some people, and I know that, but something that you can control are your own personal goals. If something gets blocked, how do you work around it? Adapt and change that goal. So I'm going to do a whole episode just on SMART goals, but my change episode does talk about them. I learned about them through my master's program. They're used in academia a lot. I think you might read about them online. But SMART goals are specific to something you want to do. They're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time bound. So I could say, I want $1 million. Well, sure, I want $1 million, but that is not specific enough. I want $1 million to buy a house and set up my retirement account but then that goes back to achievable. Is that achievable on my current salary? Is that achievable with my current career? Is that achievable with what I'm doing? No. So what's an achievable goal that I could fight for? $100,000 maybe. Let's go for $100,000. So I want $100,000. That's measurable and that's maybe achievable. That probably is way too big for achievable, but I'm a stretch goal kind of gal. And so when is it relevant? Yes, the $100,000 is relevant to my life and time bound by the end of 2025. So I want $100,000 by the end of 2025 to buy a house and set up my retirement account so I can better take care of myself and not be a burden on others. That's a very specific goal. Now I can look at that and go, okay, specifically, what am I going to do to get to that $100,000? I'm going to do the job that I have. If it was $50,000 and my job was paying me $40,000, I have $10,000 to make up. Do I do a side hustle? Do I make something that I sell on Etsy? Do I pick up a weekend job? Do I watch dogs overnight in my home and have people pay me for that? Because I'm going to be home anyways, so why not babysit people's dogs for some extra money? If I have a year, the opportunity for that is going to be much, much bigger. So creating goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, this will be in the show notes, is very important. So some things that you can do to thrive in your own life, and we'll wrap this up here pretty soon, is to practice gratitude. You're going to hear a lot about that all the time, everywhere, because it's true. If you're grateful for the things that are good in your life, you attract more good things in your life. And so a gratitude journal, meditation, end of the day, write down 3 good things that happened that day, 3 things you're grateful for that day. If that becomes a daily habit, you start to look for good things in your day. Develop empathy. This is a really big deal. I think right now it's really hard to be empathetic. Our country is very divided, but being able to understand and connect with others can help you in both your personal and professional life. It means I'm able to hear you and I'm able to understand what you're going through. It doesn't mean I feel sorry for you. It means even if I don't agree with you politically, or even if I don't agree with you socially, I can feel that you're anxious about this. I can feel that you're upset about this, and this is impacting you. I can have that feeling without taking on board their feelings. I can be empathetic. And there is not enough empathy in the world right now. So if you practice empathy, you're going to thrive more in your own life because you're going to see in others what they struggle with, and it steps outside of yourself, and it is a growing opportunity for sure. Accept change. We've talked a lot about that. Change can bring growth and improvement in your life, so definitely accept it. It's going to happen. Get that Post-it note with the big circle on it that says change, put it on the wall, and when a change happens, just push it and go, oh, that's change. I was wondering when it was coming. That's my change for today. I don't know. I get a laugh about change. I enjoy change. Be yourself. So be true to yourself. It's the only way to live a happy and successful life. The best way to be true to yourself is figure out what's important to you. Make a plan to focus more on those things that are important to you. If it's your kids, Put your phone down at dinner. Have a no phone dinner and sit there and talk to them and ask them how they're doing. This is practicing empathy. Interact with them, engage, make your home a place where everybody is present. And then be yourself. Who are you? If you don't remember who you are, that's a whole nother podcast. But I myself am, as I'm exploring my life and doing this podcast, I'm getting back in touch with the person I feel I was when I was my best. And that was one strong, purposeful person. And when I am more myself, I put up with less stuff I don't want, and I do more stuff that I want, which is thriving. I'm thriving by being more me. And if you're really struggling with knowing who you are, that should be something you do with a journal. Start writing in your journal. Who do I want to be? Who am I? What's important to me? What do I want to focus on? What do I want to do next? And maybe listen to my episodes on purpose, because that's a lot about what I talk about. And then a huge one, which is really hard for a lot of people, is choose love over fear. Fear can limit your growth. If you're afraid to go someplace because those people might think you're strange, or you're fearful to go someplace, they're going to try to change me. You're fearful to go someplace, what if I don't know what to say? It stunts your ability to move forward. But operating from love or acceptance of yourself can encourage personal and relationship growth. And if you go somewhere saying, I love myself, I love my purpose, I'm thriving, I'm going to go to this and see if I can get one tiny thing from tonight's dinner, or if I can find one beautiful painting in that museum, or if I can look down at the ground and find one amazing rock or leaf or tree on that hike. Whatever it is, go from a place of love, not fear, and you'll thrive. Trust me. Cultivate a growth mindset, set those goals, practicing mindfulness, prioritizing a social life over your professional life. So many of us got caught up in being stuck at home, and it's not really healthy, but push yourself to get out there. Uncomfortable places are where we grow, and it's where you might meet your new best friend. You might meet the love of your life if you're looking for one. You might find somebody you didn't even know that you needed in your life, a new person who wants to go do fun things. Let's go rock climbing. Let's go to Cirque du Soleil. Let's go start our own theater in the backyard, whatever it is. But develop lifelong learning habits. Study something. My girlfriend just picked up knitting and she's loving it. She's making hats and she's making scarves. And these are going to be legacy pieces that she gives to her kids. And, she's learning how to do this. So lifelong learning is so good for the brain. It staves off dementia, and it helps our brains stay healthy. And thriving is really a goal. And hopefully this episode has helped you. Thriving is a mindset as much as it's actual physical skills. So I think almost everything starts with that mindset. Put on some music and dance around. Go say hi to a neighbor. Sing at the top of your lungs. I don't care if you can sing good. Who cares, Do what it is that makes you happy and practice being joyful, and soon it becomes second nature, kind of a new habit. It's not the habit of being whoa, whoa, whoa. It's a new habit of being happy. And, you only have this one precious life. So go out and live it. And I hope that you get to throw off the lines that are holding you back, and that you have a total life.